Hello and welcome to a new video where basically this is a new episode of Ham Says, the series where Ham says things unscriptedly and you listen and tell me what you think in the comments. Excuse me. So, the Ouya is our topic today. Now, the Ouya was a console that was started on Kickstarter. It came up in July 10th of 2012, and the basic premise was you would have this small, cheap Android micro console, and it would not be that powerful, but it would be basically just for indie developers and the like, just to kind of, basically flesh out any ideas that they might have had, that they may not have thought would have worked on one of the bigger consoles, just kind of test the waters with it, that kind of idea. And it drummed a lot of support, partially because I think a lot of people weren't listening to the core message. The core message was a cheap kind of console that would allow people who are maybe being forced to develop on Android platforms like, say, the Google Play Store, to bring their games to a TV console. A lot of people probably just saw it as, oh, this is a fourth console manufacturer and it's going to compete with the PS4 and Xbox One. They may have known that it wasn't going to be nearly as powerful, but I think that was the ultimate idea, is they thought this was going to have proper AAA games, which it didn't for the most part. It did have 3 Sonic games, being Sonic the Hedgehog Sonic the Hedgehog 4 episodes 1 and 2, and then it also had Sonic CD. It also had Final Fantasy 3, the remake that was on the DS, but in HD on a big screen, if anyone wanted that. So basically, that was pretty much the extent of the Ouya's AAA presence. And it was backed by a lot, but it was backed by a lot of people, and it drummed up a lot of support. Especially Notch, who made Minecraft, gave a very large sum of money. He was actually one of the first backers, and it raised $2 million in one day, $2 million US, which is just insane. The amount of people that gave that on the first day of this thing's Kickstarter. So as it progressed, it basically got, more and more steam. The first exclusive game was announced. It was made by a chap called Robert Bowler. That was the first one that was announced. So by the time the project wrapped up, around August 9th of 2012, it had, drummed up a ton of support. It had done, I think it got $8.5 million US, just a little over that. And it was just a rollicking success, and they decided, they started work on the console, basically. So the dev kits were first shipped out in December 28th of 2012, and they were kind of, generally positively received. There were these little see-through cubes, obviously the size of the real Ouya, very small, and they had, 1 gig of RAM, all the system specs, and you could sideload apps onto them, and then obviously put on your own games that you were working on if you were a developer. The cool thing is, though, this was kind of a feature that was left in with the later models, is that every console is a dev kit. So even if you just have the normal console, as long as you have an APK which you made, you can just upload it and send it off for kind of their quality check. I'm not sure if that still exists since they got bought out by Razer, but I'll get onto that in a moment. So yeah, it started to ship out to the Kickstarter backers, the proper full-on models, in March 28th of 2013. And so, some of the feedback was generally positive, and it was finally released to the public in June 25th of 2013. However, some people were not as happy as others. Some people were very disappointed. A lot of the games were kind of very easy pick up and play, kind of short games. The only games I can really think of that actually weren't that short was Pure Solar, and there was also Clark, although they were released much later. And there are a bunch of others, like I think that Dragon Cancer is a bit longer as well. It's kind of more a story-driven game. Uh, and I think a lot of people were disappointed with this kind of mobile philosophy of game design, even though that was kind of the intention of the Ouya from the start. Uh, it's really more arcadey kind of games, and while they would have maybe floated a console back in, say, the Super Nintendo days, nowadays people are just looking for more, a story or maybe some sort of online multiplayer, which was something the console always struggled with. Eventually, it did get some good games for online multiplayer. Like there was one that was kind of similar to Ace Combat, and then there was also a kind of futuristic racing game called Flash Out 2. If you ever do get a Ouya and you do see the Flash Out games, Flash Out 3D, pretty trashy. Flash Out 2, pretty damn good. It's nowhere near as fast as say something like F-Zero or Fast Racing Neo, but it's fun and it's got some solid online multiplayer. So if you don't have a Nintendo console, it's a good alternative. So that was kind of the theme of the Ouya, though. There was, as I say, a couple of AAA games. For example, the Sonic games that came out for the Ouya and the Final Fantasy game. But for the most part, it was just, these indie games. And some games actually did quite well out of it. One particular example would be Towerfall. That game really took off. It got a massive following behind it. And it actually got releases on the PS4 and the PC. And it's kind of like a Smash Bros. 8-bit style game, and you shoot arrows at your opponents, and it's just kind of rapid fire rounds, just take out as many opponents as you can, that usual 4-play, chaotic kind of gameplay. And there were actually a lot of games like that on the Ouya. Another one that I remember that came out for the Ouya initially was Toto Temple Deluxe also. So that was a good game.